Okay, welcome back. This is part 2 of our full BIM project for the warehouse distribution center. So in this episode, we're going to be drafting a simple BIM execution plan. Now, a BIM execution plan is a document that outlines the things that you are going to deliver, which is in response to the clients or the appointing parties in exchange information requirement. So the BIM execution plan can be subdivided into two parts. We have the pre-contractual BIM execution plan and also the post-contractual BIM execution plan. So what happens is, if I can just show you graphically. So if you go to this diagram, as you can see, we have the client, which in this instance is the appointing party. And also you have the possible appointee, which is you or the consultants. And then, so what happens is the client or the appointing party produces the exchange information requirement. So the exchange information requirement outlines the things that the appointing party or the client requires in terms of the project, the deliverables, to what level of detail, and the level of information in need. So during the bidding process, you as the possible appointee or the consultant, you produce the pre-contractual BIM execution plan. So you outline the things that you will deliver in response to the appointing parties exchange information requirement. And then when your pre-BIM execution plan gets chosen during the bidding process, you are going to produce the post-contractual BIM execution plan, which is more refined and also which outlines the level of information you need and also the deliverables. So during that process, you become the appointed party. So without further ado, let's jump into the drafting of our BIM execution plan. So here we are. You guys can just open up a simple Word document and then you can just follow the instructions. So here we are on the first page. So on the first page, the first thing is we're gonna include the document control sheet. So we're just gonna say document control, and let me just say let me just make it a title, and I'm gonna go down. So I'm just gonna produce a table. So I'm gonna go to insert, and I'm gonna produce four of them. So it's gonna be four this side and also two like this. And yeah, so I'm just gonna say the headings are gonna be purpose of issue and revision, description, and also the date. So under purpose of issue, so the purpose of issue is it's for information, and oh yeah, it's info for information. So I'm gonna use the codes according to the naming convention. So for purpose of information is gonna be S03, and then the revision is gonna be A01, and then the description is it's gonna be document creation, and these three, distribution for information between all parties. So the date, I'm just gonna make it, let's make it 31st of July 2024. Perfect. Now this is our document control. And now the next thing is I'm gonna go to we're gonna go to the content. So the next page is obviously gonna be it's going to be the table of content. So it's going to be content, and I'm just going to make it a title, and I'm going to go to the next page. So on this page, we're going to go with the terms and abbreviations. So it's going to be terms and abbreviations. So I'm going to make it a title, and I'm going to place it in a table format. So I'm going to go to insert, and so it's going to be two columns. And let's see, we're going to have the asset, we're going to have the BIM, BEP, level of information in need, and the level of detail. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be 5 of them. Perfect. Now we're going to start with the BIM, and then next one is going to be the BEP, and then asset, and then we have level of information in need, and then level of detail. And I think which one can we also include? I think, yeah, I think that's all we can conclude. So we're gonna start with Bill BIM. So it's building information, modeling is the holistic process, is the holistic process of creating and managing information for built assets. Because assets are assets in the truest form of the word. They are a means to an end. And I think that's what the basis of building information is. It's more than just 3D models, it's building your assets. So if you guys want more information when it comes to asset management, you should refer to ISO 55000, and you will get a much wider scope when it comes to managing your assets. So we'll just leave it like that. And also um, we have the BEP. So BEP is a written document that integrates BIM tasks along with information with all relevant stakeholders. We'll stop. And then we're going to go with the assets. The useful or valuable quality of an object. Level of information in need. Let me just refer to my notes. So the quality, quantity, and the granularity granular, granularity of information required for specific purposes. So this involves the why, when, who, or what. And also we have the level of detail. So this refers to the complexity of a graphical data or 3D of a 3D model represent, representation representation. And so if you combine the level of detail and also the level of information, you get the level of development. But I think there's some modifications when it comes to the BIM standards. So now, instead of level of development, they are using level of information in need, which combines the graphical data and also the non-graphical data. So yeah, if you are able to communicate those types of deliverables and also what you can achieve towards the client, then you have a higher chance of getting your pre BIM execution plan to the next phase. So we are done with when it comes to the terms and abbreviations. So the next thing is we're going to tackle the introduction. So just going to type in introduction and just apply the same paint. So when it comes to introduction, the intent of the building of the BIM execution plan is to define the framework to ensure the successful deployment of advanced design technology on BIM enabled projects. The BEP is about optimizing work and model flow across the project as contrasted with optimizing siloed interests. So another thing about BIM is a perfect initiative when it comes to carrying out the projects beyond its life cycle. So the way we've been taught is we bring construction plans at site, we build, we cut the ribbon, we celebrate, and then everything just ends there. So during the life cycle of a project, I think BIM related projects is able to create much assets that will be able to help relevant stakeholders to carry out everything from facilities management throughout the project lifecycle beyond the closeout of a project. So I think that's very much valuable. So the so we're gonna go with the key is good planning of the design to engineering to construction process to minimize downstream surprises, obviously, rework, redundancy, redundancies, or gaps in the flow of model-based information. Perfect. So I'm gonna save this. Now, the next thing is, I think we are done with our introduction. I just kept it as basic as I could. Now, the next thing is, we're gonna go with our project information. So I'm gonna type in project information. So for our project information, we're gonna go with let me just generate a table. So it's gonna be, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's gonna be 6 of them, and then it's gonna be 2 of them. Perfect. Now we're gonna start with the project name. Project code. Project coordinates. The client. Description. And so it's gonna be coordinates. So this one is gonna be project location instead of project coordinates. Perfect. Now for the project name, it's warehouse. Warehouse distribution center, and the project code. So we're gonna say VDC. Let's just say VDC. Actually, let's say WDC for warehouse distribution center. The project location, it's gonna be based in. So the project location, it's uh, Nel Naume Naume Naumepius Drive Tshwane, Ward 65, Irene 0062, South Africa. And then the client, let's say the client is VDC, and the project description is uh, warehouse distribution center for logistics and cargoes. So the coordinates, we're gonna go with north or south is gonna be minus 25.875, and uh, the east of west is gonna be 28.229, and then the elevation is gonna be 1453.00 meters. Perfect. Now I'm gonna save this. Now this is basically our project information. Now the next thing is we're gonna tackle our project goals or BIM goals. So our project goals. So for our project goals, we're gonna have one, and the first one is gonna be visualization. So this one is gonna be, let's just say 3D visualization. The second one is gonna be uh, common data environment. The third one is gonna be record record information model. So this is what we have. So for the 3D visualization is basically sharing of 3D information to the broader project team for visualization purposes. Common data environment involves the use of common data environment. Remember I showed you on the first episode using Bexel CDE, setting up a project. That's where you are going to upload your construction forms, your project files, your models, and so on. So, and also the record information model. This is an actual output from the 3D model production processes. It is an exported copy of the 3D model at the time of setup in the MPDT for the use by the contractor to attach construction records to. So the general contractors can actually attach construction forms towards your BIM model. So this is where record information model comes in. So that's our project goals, three of them. Now the next thing is we have our BIM uses and softwares. So we have our BIM uses and software. And let me just change the format of this. So it's gonna be one. We have architectural design authoring, which involves Revit. So we're gonna use Revit 2023 and the file format Actually, let's start with, so let me just use a table format for this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 of them. So I'm gonna go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're gonna have 4 of these. So the first one is architectural design authoring, and then the second one, actually, let me start with the, okay, it's a BIM process, the author, the software, and the format. So let me just set below. Okay, so we have architectural design authoring, and then the author obviously is going to be the architect, and then the software is going to be Revit 23. So in this instance, think of yourself as both the structural engineer, the architect, the general contractors, because we're going to model everything. And the format obviously is going to be .rvt. So the next one is the structural, so it's going to be the structural design authoring, and then the author is going to be the structural engineers, Revit 23, and the file format is going to be RVT. And then we have the civil design authoring, which is going to be produced by the contractors, Revit 23, file format RVT, and let's, so I'm going to add other ones. I'm going to add below. Ah, so let me just add one more. So after that, we have the common data environment. So, and the author, it's, let me just say, because everyone is involved in that. So I'm just going to say Revit, what is it? Bexel, CDE. And so it doesn't have a file format. So I'll just say not applicable. And then record information modeling, record information model. It's also going to be done by the contractors. So the code for contractors is W, and it's going to be used in Bexel also, Bexel CDE. And the file format, it's going to include IFC industry foundation class, 3D PDF possibly, .rvt Revit file, and also it can include NWC for Navisworks. So perfect. And let me just remove this cell, this row, I mean. Perfect. So this is our BIM uses and our softwares. So the next thing is The next thing is we're gonna tackle our project BIM leads. So we're gonna say project BIM leads, and let me just change its format. And then I'm just gonna add a single table like this. So we're gonna say discipline, and then we're gonna say let me just add another one. So organization and name. So the discipline, I'm gonna think as myself as a BIM manager. So I'm gonna say BIM manager and organization, WDC space, name, KT, Udise. So you guys can add more. You can have your BIM specialists, structural engineers, architects, quantity surveyors, fire engineers, and so on and so forth. So the next thing is we're gonna expound on roles and responsibilities. So we're gonna say roles and responsibilities, and then I'm just gonna change its style. So I'm gonna do a table format even for this one. So I'm gonna go to insert and I'm gonna add, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna add 4 of them, and let's say 5, and then I'm gonna add 2 of these. So I'm gonna name this one roles and authority. So we're gonna start with the lead designer, and then we have BIM manager, and we have the BIM coordinator, and then we have the BIM modeler. So the lead designer, so the lead designer manages the project design team and its functions, provides um, technical support related to design deliverables. And then we have the BIM manager, enforces the project BIM standards and ensures delivery of BIM requirements. Then we have the BIM coordinator, leading multi trade, coordination, process and interface, management, implements, approved, protocols and BEP in the project. And then we have the BIM modeler. So BIM modeling for specific design discipline. Just keep it simple like that. Perfect. So these are the roles and responsibilities we have. And another thing we're gonna do is we're gonna include our CDE approach, BIM CDE approach, or repository types in the common data environment. So we're gonna say CDE for short, CDE repository. So this basically outlines how information is gathered, how it's processed through the common data environment in accordance with ISO 19650. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to attach the picture that outlines how the process of information flows. So it's this one. So I'm just going to place it right there. So this is how it looks. So remember, when we set up our project in Bexel CDE, this is how we set up our project folders. So we have the work in progress, we have the shared, we have the publish, and also we have the archive. And you can actually download this. So this was in accordance with PAS 1192, but also ISO 19650 used this approach because the standards of ISO 19650 are basically derived from PAS 1192, but in ISO 19650, everything is just much more refined or changed in a way. So that's how it happens. So this is how the process of information flows within the Bexel, within the common data environment, basically. So uh, I'm just going to keep this BIM execution plan as basic as we can. So I'm just going to attach this graphical information. So the next thing is we're going to go with the file naming convention. So I'm going to change this format. So for the file naming convention, it's basically outlines how you name your files, how you name your documentation in accordance with BIM standards. So we have typical examples is we have the project, the organization, volumes and systems, levels, location, file types, rows, and also the number. And also you can add the purpose of your documentation, purpose of issue, the revision, the classification, and so on. So for our purpose, let me just place it in a table format. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's going to be 7 of them. And I'm going to place two rows like this. So the first one is it's going to involve the project. Second one is the organization. Third one is volumes, volumes or systems. The fourth one is going to be levels or locations. And then the third one we're going to go with is the file type, and then the role. And then the last one, I think we can go with the number. So in our instance for our project, the project description is going to be WD, warehouse distribution, WDC, the organization, let's just say VDC, volume cell systems. I'm just going to place a generic output. We don't have volume cell systems on this instance. So I'm just going to place these uh, annotations or these markups. So for levels on locations, we have multiple levels for our building. So I'm just going to place two Zs. And file type, as an example, I'm just going to say DR for drawing. And the role, I'm just going to say C for civil engineer. And for the number, I'm just going to say 4 zeros and one. So this is basically an example of a file naming convention. And next one is the classification system. Usually when it comes to classification, the ones I usually go with is the Omniclass and the Uniclass classification. So due to the complexity and the extension of the project, the documents and drawings and files in the common data environment will need to utilize a standard classification system. You can actually use Uniclass system, which is promoted by BS 1192. And also, given the complexity of system, the project will instead make use of, or it can either use systems or classification that are relevant in your particular country. So for instance, when it comes to buildings in South Africa, for quantity surveyors, they can actually use ASAQS classification code, which is derived from the standards of quantity surveyors when it comes to measurement of materials and elements. So, but in this instance, we're going to use a Uniclass 2015. So I would say due to the complexity of the project, the documents, drawings, and the files in the CDE will need to use a standard classification system. So in bracket, I will say Uniclass 2015. So you guys will see how relevant Uniclass is when we start modeling in Revit using interoperability tools. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And then the second last one is model exports. So I'm just going to change its font. So for our model exports, usually we're gonna go with IFC and also NWC for Navisworks. So the purpose of the BIM goals of visualization and record information modeling, record information model is the teams. The purpose of the BIM goals of visualization and record information model is the teams will be required to provide periodic exports of the working project information, models such as PDF, IFC, or NWC for Navisworks. So this is basically have to do with Open BIM. So the exports of the models into these formats will occur in accordance with the Master Information Delivery Plan timeline and also the MPDT prescribed levels of detail appropriate at such times. So in some instances, when you guys model in Revit or any other BIM platforms, you produce model exports such as NWC or NWD or IFC and also sheets, PDFs, drawings in accordance with the TIDP and also the MIDP, which basically outlines the deliverables that you have agreed upon with the lead appointing party or the client. So yeah. So after that, we have, after the model exports, so after the model exports, we have our deliverables. So when it comes to our deliverables, let me just change this format. I'm gonna add a table for this. So we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let me just add 7 of these rows and then 3 columns. So we're gonna have type, software, and then the format. So the type, we have the BEP, and also we have the schedule, BIM models, and then design development, um, construction documents, and then we have the shop drawings. So for the BEP is going to be the PDF. For the schedules is going to be Microsoft Excel. The BIM models are going to be Revit and Navisworks. And the design development, Revit, construction documents are going to be produced in Revit. Shop drawings are going to be produced in Revit. And the file extent .pdf, Excel .xls, Revit, and Navisworks.rvt and .nwc, and then for Revit .rvt, .rvt, .rvt. Now I'm gonna save this. So yeah, that's it. That's basically our BIM execution plan. Obviously, you guys can add your table of contents after you're done. So let's just run through it one more time. So we have the document control, you have your table of contents, you have your terms and abbreviations, introduction, project information, project goals, BIM uses and software, project BIM leads, roles and responsibilities, common data environment repository, file naming convention, classification system, model exports, deliverables. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you on the next episode whereby we will cover uh, uh, what is it, coordinates. So we are going to use the shared point reference between Civil 3D and Revit. We're going to establish our coordinates and then we'll start modeling in Revit. So I'll see you on the next tutorial. Peace.
Okay, so here we are in Bexcel CDE. First of all, before I get started, I would like to explain what the CDE is. For those who are not familiar with the term, CDE stands for Common Data Environment. It's a platform whereby different sets of stakeholders come together and share information across a common platform. So you need to be able to set up a project in accordance with the PAS 1192 or ISO 19650 if you guys want to be an efficient BIM coordinator or BIM manager. So the essence of building information modeling is essentially exchange and utilization of information across project stakeholders. This can be architects, structural engineers or engineers, general contractors, subcontractors, quantity surveyors, and so on. So this is where the common data environment takes center stage. So the sharing of information it's made easier when it is stored in a common platform, cloud-based platform where different sets of people can use it for whatever use case they have. So, without further ado, let's start setting up our project. So, this is Bexcel CDE. You guys certainly can get the trial version of this cloud-based platform. So the first thing is this is actually the page I just signed in. So we're gonna set up a new project. So you're gonna go to create new project, and as you can see, it's gonna pop up this tab. So you're gonna enter your project name. So for this one, we're gonna name it warehouse distribution center. And then as you can see, our account is the name of your company you just used when you created your account. So for the company, we're gonna name it the VDC space. So you can name it your own company. So we're gonna name this one the VDC space, and the project manager you can name yourself. And then the project type. So our warehouse distribution center, I think it can fall under industrial. And then for you can certainly enter your own country. So I'm from South Africa, so I'm gonna enter South Africa, and the currency I'm gonna enter my own the currency of my country. And certainly you can also add your project description and then the image of your maybe a snapshot of your building or your 3D model. And then remember just to include Bexcel products such as Bexcel Viewer and Bexcel Docs. So we're gonna create a new project and say create new. Now it's gonna load your Bexcel CDE project. And now it certainly created your own project. So the next thing is, as you can see, it has this tab, which is the project name, the project manager, created date, the author, and then these revisions tabs, and also the number of participants. So you, after creating the project, you can think of yourself as a administrator, at an account administrator, and also a project administrator. So you are allowed to control the access of different sets of members and different sets of stakeholders. So you are responsible for user access. This is where you can manage and also control on this tab here, which is the manage. So as you can, when you hover over these certain symbols, you have manage project users, and also you have manage project versions, and also you can edit the project, and also you can delete the project. Now after creating our project, we certainly gonna go to, I think we're gonna, yeah, let's just go to home. So when you go to home, as you can see, this is where your project is based, and then it's classified under industrial. So after we go to home, we're going to click on this project, and then it's going to open up a new tab. And then after it opens up a new tab, as you can, when you scroll to the top left, we have these two tabs, which is report and also documents. So let's start with our reports. So your report, when you go to add new report, you can create different sets of report based on your BIM goals. It can be crash detection, it can be 5D cost estimation, it can be 4D construction sequencing or construction planning, and also it can be 7D sustainability studies, if I'm not mistaken, or it can be yeah, facilities management. So based on your BIM goals, you can set up your different sets of report, but we are not going to set it right on this instance. So I'm just going to go to cancel. And as you can see, it indicates the type of reports that you guys can manage to create on this tab. So I'm just going to go to cancel, and this is the tab that we are actually going to use. So we're going to go to documents. So under documents, this is what we have. So on the left hand side, we have our project files, and then on the right hand side, you have our uploads. This is where you upload your files, and then this is where you add your folders, download your folders, delete your folders or your files, in edit your folders, show in viewer, and also you can filter by element selection. So the first thing is we're going to create our folders in accordance with the PAS 1192. So the first one we're going to have is, so I think we're going to start with our BIM execution plan folder. So we're going to click on this project folder and say add folder, and then this folder I'm gonna name it 0, and then I'm gonna say dash, and then name it BIM execution plan, and then I'm gonna say save changes. So after we save changes, it's going to be added onto this tab on your left, and also it's going to be added on this tab right here. And now the second one we're going to add, we're going to click on the project files again, and then we're going to say add folder, and then we're going to say number 2, and then say dash, and then this one we're going to name it WIP, which stands for work in progress, and then we're going to say save changes. And now it's going to be added. Actually, we're going to have to rename this to, let's just rename it to, let me select this one. I'm actually going to change it to 1 and say save changes. And this one, so this one I'm going to name it 00 and say save changes. So we're going to click on project files again, and then the next one is we're going to say add folder again, and then the next one is going to be 02 and say dash, and then this one we're going to name it shared, and then we're going to say save changes, and then it's going to be added onto that, and then the next one is going to be 03 dash, and then we're going to name this one published, and then we're going to say save changes, and then it's going to be added onto that, the next one, and then the last one is going to be 04 and then dash, and then we're going to name this one archive. Archived, and say save changes. And this is basically your folder structure in accordance with ISO 19650. So yeah, this is basically what you have. So on this folder, in terms of our project, we're going to add our BIM execution plan, and if there was an exchange information requirement document, we would have added it onto this folder also. And things like the information side of things, so documents such as MIDP, the Master Information Delivery Plan, the TIDP, the Task Information Delivery Plan, we would have added it under this certain folder. And then otherwise, we can go to our work in progress. So in this instance, we're only going to use only two folders. We're going to use the BIM Execution Plan folder and the Work in Progress folder, and these ones we're going to leave for this moment. So under the Work in Progress, we're going to select our Work in Progress, and then we're going to add folders under this certain folder. We're going to add subfolders to this. So we're going to say add folder, and then this one we're going to name it 000 and say dash, and then this one we're going to name it drawings, and then we're going to say save changes, and then we're going to select WIP again and say add folder, and then 01, and then we're going to name these ones models and say save changes, and then we're going to say select WIP again and say add folder, and then we're going to say 02 and say dash, and then these ones we're going to say exports and say save changes. So we're just going to keep it as basic as we can. So this is what we're going to have. Actually, I think it's better if we separate them according to disciplines. So I'm going to select this one, and then let me just select WIP, select this one, remove it, and then this one also remove it, and say this one also I'm going to remove it. So I'm going to select WIP again, add subfolder. So the first one, I'm going to name it 00, and then I'm going to name this one arc for architecture. Okay, or I can just say architecture in full, save changes. The next one, I'm going to say add folder 01 dash, and then structure, and then save changes, and then I'm gonna say add folder again, and then the last one I'm gonna name it plumbing, and then I'm gonna say save changes. So this is what we have. So I'm gonna start with our architecture. So I'm gonna select the architecture folder and add a subfolder under that one, and then I'm gonna say 00 dash, and then I'm gonna name these ones drawings, save changes, and then I'm going to add another subfolder under architecture, so it's going to be 01, and then I'm going to name these ones models, save changes, and then the last folder is going to be 02, and then I'm going to say exports, and then I'm going to say save changes. So it's going to be the same situation when it comes to the structure folder and also the plumbing folder. So on the drawings is basically your 2D drawings and also your CAD drawings, and then under your models is basically your 3D models. They can be either from Revit or ArchiCAD or Civil 3D and Bentley or other 3D modeling softwares. And then your exports are actually basically your exportation of your 3D models, such as IFC Industry Foundation class, and also your Navisworks models, which are uh, uh, NWC or NWD, so which you can use for interoperability or information models, which you can use for different sets of BIM uses or your BIM goals, such as cost estimation and also your planning. So this is where they will be stored. So in terms of Bexel Manager, you can actually import your models from the Bexel software itself. But in this instance, I'm just trying to keep it as basic as you can. So I'm only using this platform instead of using the other tools of Bexel Manager, where you upload your maybe your IFC models or your Revit models, and then they can be stored in cloud, and then they can be uploaded on this certain platform. So in this instance, we are basically going to do things much more manually. When we upload our models, we are just going to use this option of upload and save files, and then you're gonna go to select files, and then this is where you can upload your models. And then you're gonna select your models. Let's say I'm gonna select this bridge and say open. And then after you select your models, it's gonna upload, and then you're gonna select this check-in, and then it's gonna be uploaded under your files. So it's still uploading, and then it's gonna say successfully uploaded, and then you're gonna say check-in, and then it's gonna upload your file, and then this is where it will be uploaded, or based on the folder you have chosen. So let me just remove this. Just so I'm gonna go to architecture, and then I'm gonna select this, and then I'm gonna delete it. Okay, now it's removed. So this is basically how we're gonna set up our folder structure. And remember, we have our BIM execution plan, we have our work in progress, our shared, published, and also archived. And let's start with, let's just go over it again. So this is where you will be at. So under projects, you're gonna create your new project. And then you're gonna name it, you're gonna apply your certain parameters based on your country and all those information. And then you're gonna go to home, and under your home, you will see that your project is classified under a certain discipline, and in this instance it's industrial for us. And then you're going to click on your project, and then it's going to open up a new tab which will take you to your reports and also your documents. So you can generate your report based on your BIM use cases or your goals. In this instance, we have class detection, we have 5D estimation, or you can do 4D construction planning. You can also do sustainability studies and facilities management, and so on. And then under documents, you're going to open up your documents, and then you're going to set up your folder structure according to PAS 1192. And in this instance, you can name this one either information or documentation. And then this one you're going to name it work in progress, WIP for short. And then this one is going to be shared, this one is going to be published, and then this one is going to be archived. And then when you drop down this, you're going to classify your disciplines that you are working with. In this instance, we're going to have the architecture, the structural, and also the plumbing. And then under architecture, we're going to have your drawings, your models, and also your exports. And this basically it for this project. We're just going to keep it as basic as you can. So yeah, let's after this, we're going to move on to our shared point reference. So let's move on to that.
All right, folks, welcome back. So in this tutorial, we're gonna start with the modeling. So before we do that, we're gonna have to refine our Dynamo script for our portal frame, and then we can incorporate the families into our project. So let's just go to the south elevation again, just to confirm. So remember, this was our level above our above sea level. So this is our base point. Let's see. So those are our coordinates and also the angle of true north. So if I just press UN for units and then go to length, I'm just gonna change this to 3 decimal places, and I'm gonna leave it at meters and say OK, and then OK. So if you press this and go to edit type, remember that you have set your elevation base to survey point instead of project base point. So you're gonna say OK. Remember, set everything in meters. And now what we can do is we're gonna go to manage, and then I'm gonna open up Dynamo. So this is Dynamo. So the first thing is I'm just gonna open up the portal frame script that we have generated on our previous tutorials. So if you guys have missed it, I will just post the link on the description. So what we're gonna do is we are not going to reinvent the wheel. It's just a case of refining our Dynamo script to suit our project. So I think on the original script from the previous tutorial, the one thing I didn't place is our origin point. So I want to use that project, that survey point as our origin point. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna right click and then search for number, and then you're gonna use the number node, and then you're gonna rename it to origin, and then you're gonna search for point by Cartesian coordinates, and then you're gonna join that node towards the Z elevation, and then you're gonna join the point from the point by Cartesian coordinates towards the insertion point, so that you can use your portal, so that you can use that Z axis as your starting point or origin point. So remember, you're gonna use the number node and then the point by Cartesian coordinates, and then you're gonna insert your elevation, which is this one. So if I go back to Dynamo, as you can see, it's in millimeters. So I'm just gonna change this. Uh, so now it's in meters. Let's just see, it's 1453. So it's 1453. Perfect. Now, as you can see, you placed it, you're going to join it towards the z-axis, and then you'll point towards your insertion point. So if I just if I just generate the background of our script, just go to background and then zoom and extend. As you can see, this is basically what we have so far. Now our script is basically ready. It's just a case of now loading our families for our portal frame. So you're gonna leave everything as it is. The width is gonna be 30,000 millimeters. Your height is gonna be 8,000. Your angle is gonna be 20 degrees. Base spacing is gonna be 6,000. The number of bases is gonna be 9. The number of purlins are gonna be 10. And what else? So let's just go, and we're gonna refine the bracing, X bracing, the side rails. We're gonna refine it, and let's see. Yeah. So let's just start with our we're not going to place the families yet. Let's just start with our X bracings, which are these ones on the side. So I want my X bracing to be applied at the first bay, the last bay, and the bay in the middle. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to remove 876, and then I'm going to remove 4, 3, 2. So I'm only going to be left with 1, 5, and 9. As you can see, it's refined. And the side rails, I'm just going to leave them like that. And the next thing is, what I'm going to do is, um, I think everything is all set at this point, and the X bracings at the top are also set on the first bay, the middle bay, and also the last bay. So the next thing is I'm just gonna scroll down, place this down, and when I open up the 3D view in our Revit workspace, as you can see, this is what we have. So I'm just going to press VG for visibility graphics, and then I'm going to type inside. And then under site, I'm going to drop down and then check our internal origin, project base point, and survey point, press apply, and then OK, so that we can see our insertion point or our origin point where it is based on our 3D view. Now, the next thing is, obviously, I'm going to load in my families. So I'm going to go to insert and say load family. And then I'm going to go to metric library and say UK contents. Now, the one thing, I'm going to be specific on this. So I'm just going to start with our columns, structural columns, steel, and then British standards. So for our columns, we're going to go with the UB, Universal Beams columns, and the sizes we're gonna go with 610 by 229 by 101 UB. So it's gonna be 610, 229, 101, and say okay. And now I'm gonna open up my Dynamo script, and then I'm gonna go to my columns. So here we are, we have structural column types. I'm gonna change it to 610 by 229 by 101. Perfect. I'm going to drop down, and it's not applied yet. So in order for you to apply it, we're going to have to refine also our levels, but we're going to do that later. So in this instance, let's just load in our families. So I'm going to go to load family again. And then the second family I'm going to load is going to be for the purlins. So the purlins, we're going to go with structural framing and steel. So, and then British standards. So for our purlins, we're going to go with 150 by 90 by 24 PFC, which is the parallel flange channels. And say open. So it's going to be 150 by 90 by 24 and say OK. And now the next family we're going to load, is going to be the rafters. For the rafters, it's going to be 500 and we're going to use the structural framing and go to steel, British standards. And then for the rafters, we're going to use 533 by 210 by 92 U beam, universal beam. So it's going to be 533 by 210 by 92 and say OK. Overwrite the existing version. So the next family we're going to load in, we're going to still go to structural framing and say steel British standards. So the next one is going to be the bracings for the roofs. So we're going to go with circular hollow sections. So open. So in terms of the sizes, we're going to go with 139.9.7 by 12.5 and say OK. Load family. And then we're going to go with structural framing again. So this time we're going to go with the side rails. For the side rails, we're going to go with the parallel flange channels again. and then we're gonna go with 150 by 90 by 24. We already have loaded that in, so yeah. And the last one is gonna be the side bracings, which we are going to use the circular hollow section that we just loaded in, which the size is going to be 139.7 by 12.5, and say okay. Perfect. Now it's time to, let's just go to the south elevation. So what we're going to do is see, let's just zoom and extend. Okay, so this is level 0. If I go to the south elevation, let's just go to levels. I don't see my levels. Let me just measure from this point to that point. Okay, that's a lot. So I'm gonna go back to my dynamo script. So obviously I'm gonna have to change these to meters. So 30,000 is gonna be 30. 8,000 is going to be 8. The angle is fine. The base spacing is going to be 6. Number of base is 9. I think that's okay. Number of purlins is fine. And what else should we refine in terms of our parameters? What else should we refine? Let's see. Let's see. So this is going to be for our side rails, it's gonna be 4 in terms of 4 instead of 4,000. So let's just go back to our Revit workspace and see how it looks now. So now it makes sense. We can see our level. Perfect. It's just that I forgot to change those 2 meters. So here we are. Now we're gonna add our extra levels. So I'm gonna go to level and say pick lines, and then I'm gonna offset this by 500. By 0.5, not 500. So it's 500, but it's in meters. That's why I said that. So this is where our surface bed is going to be based. And then I'm just going to place another one right. Let me just measure from this point to, so our height is going to be 8,000. So let's just go to level, pick lines, set this to 8. And then I'm going to offset this from there. And then I'm gonna offset this one by, let me just place it right there, and then I'm just gonna manually, so it's gonna be 2.5. So I'm just gonna place it like this. Perfect. And obviously I'm gonna have to rename these levels. Before we do that, let's just see what we have on the structural plans. I think we're gonna have to add level 0 on there. And so in order for us to do that, we're going to go to view and save plan views, structural plan, and then make sure this box is checked. Do not duplicate the existing views and say OK. Now it's added only to the structural plans, which we are going to use. So let's just close this down. Go back to the south elevation. You're going to rename this to 00 dash and say base. And then say yes. And then you're going to rename this one 01 surface bed, and then you're gonna say yes, and then you're gonna rename this 02, and then you're gonna rename this Eve and say yes, and obviously this one, the last one, is gonna be 03, and then you're gonna name it roof. Now it doesn't matter in terms of the levels because your families are only gonna be attached based on your dynamo script. But yeah, it depends on your dynamics grid, but obviously you're going to have to associate your families towards a certain level. So if I open up the 3D view, zoom and extend, this is basically how it looks. Let me just select this, right click, maximize 3D extend, and this is how it looks. Now we're gonna go back to our dynamo script. Now it's time to add families, associate families towards these parameters. For the columns, I'm gonna associate levels first. So for our columns, it's gonna be base, and for our rafters, I'm gonna use roof, and for our side rails, I'm gonna use eave. For our X side X bracings, we're gonna use eave. And then for our roof X bracing, we're gonna use roof. And then which one is left in terms of the levels? Our purlins, we're gonna use roof. And then for I think that's all. Now it's time to associate families. So let's start with the roof X bracing. We're gonna use the circular hollow section 139.7 by 12.5. And then for our side X bracing, we're going to use the same thing. And then let's go with our rafters. For our rafters, we're going to use the PFC. And then let's go to our purlins. Our purlins is going to be PFC also. So yeah, I think that's, no, actually for our rafters, we're going to use, uh, for our rafters, we're going to use 533 by 210 by 92, and then for our purlins we're going to use the PFC. Now if I drop down and just go to my Revit workspace, this is basically how our portal frame looks. Perfect. Now obviously you can save this dynamo script. So um, I'm just gonna minimize this, and yeah, this is basically how it looks. The only thing I want to do is change the orientation of our columns to face the other way. So in order for me to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna close down my dynamo script, and then I'm just gonna save it, and then I'm gonna minimize this. Now everything is all set. So I'm gonna select one column, right click, and then select all instances visible in view, and then I'm gonna press spacebar on my keyboard, and then the orientation of these columns is gonna change. Perfect. Now it has changed. So I think the next thing we can do is obviously we're going to have to place some columns right on the front view and also at the back in order for us to accommodate for our ruler shutters and also for our front doors and so on and so forth. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the base level. So on our base level on the structural plan, I'm just going to select my views, filter, check none. So I'm going to say views and elevations. I'm going to select it, and then I'm just going to move it towards this point, and then I'm going to select it, extend its view, extend, and then I'm going to select this one, move it towards this point, select it, and then extend its view. And then this one, I'm going to select it, extend its view. Let me just change the scale to 200 so that you guys can see it more clearly. So I'm just going to select these two and then adjust them like in the middle like this. And also these two, and then adjust them like this. Now, as you can see, this is what we have. I'm just going to change this to fine. And then I'm going to press VR for view extend. And then I'm going to set these to 1000, apply. Okay, let's set it to 4000, apply, and then okay. I think that's fine. So the next thing is I'm just gonna place my grids. So I'm gonna go to my architecture tab and say grids, and then I'm just gonna place my grids where these intersect. So I'm gonna place it the first one like this, and then extend this one like that. So this one is gonna be one. So let's just see the length of my bay. So that's 6,000. So I'm gonna offset them by 6,000. Go to grid, pick lines, and then I'm gonna set this to 6. And then I'm gonna place my grids like this. Perfect. Now I'm gonna add my grids that are running across like this. So this one I'm gonna rename it and name it A, and then I'm gonna select it and say copy, and then I'm gonna copy another one and make it perhaps, let's make it 5,000, and then this one I'm gonna make it 8,000. This one I'm gonna make it 3.5, and then this one I'm gonna make it another 8,000. So I think that's perfect. So let me just also copy the last one. So I'm gonna place it like that. So in this section, our roller shutters are going to be placed there. And then I think this section, that's where we will place our access doors. So if I go to the 3D view, this is basically how it looks. So we're going to add other columns and also other structural framings right at the front and also at the back. So going back to our base structural plan, I'm gonna select this column and then I'm gonna copy towards this grid, and then also this one towards this grid, and then this one to that one, and then this one to that one. So in the 3D view, this is how it looks. So you're gonna select this column and say attach top base. Make sure your attach column is set to top, and then you're gonna select this. Okay, it doesn't work. So just go to the south elevation. So on the south elevation, you're gonna set this to fine just to see them more clearly. So you're gonna drag this towards the top and you're gonna place it like that. And obviously you're gonna press CP for cope, and you're gonna press first your structural column and then your beam, and then it's gonna be refined like that. So go to the south elevation again, select this column, you're gonna drag it like this, and also this one, you're gonna drag it on top like this, and then this one, you're gonna drag it on top like this. Press CP for cope, press your column first, and then your beam, and then it's gonna be refined like that. And now you're gonna go to the base structural plan again, select, go to structure and then your beam, and then drop down, you're gonna go with 533, 210, 92, and then you're gonna place it from this grid to this grid, and then the other one, you're gonna place it from this grid to this grid, and this one from this grid to this grid, and then this one from that grid to that grid, and then this one to that. Go to the 3D view. Obviously, you're gonna select all of these, control select them, and then you're gonna go to edit work plane and then change its level from base to Eve and say okay. And this is what it does. And if you go to the south elevation, as you can see, somehow something has happened here. So you can just drag it towards this end, and also this one you can drag it towards this end. Okay, something clearly has happened, so let's just go with undo and select all of these. So we can set the offset to, let's just set the offset to minus 0.5. Start level offset to minus 0.5 and end level offset to 0.5, and then you can set the work plane to Eve. So okay, okay, let's just try that again. Yes, I think that's perfect now. Now I'm just gonna drop this one more, and also this one I think I'm gonna drop it more. I think this side, okay, this side is fine. Um, okay, let's select this one. So this one I'm gonna drop it by 1.5, and then 1.5 again, or let's say minus 2.5, minus 2.5. I think that's perfect. So I'm gonna select these, go to my base, and then I'm gonna copy them from this grid to the other side, go to the 3D view, and this is how it looks. So obviously, I'm gonna have to copy also these columns, and then go to the base, and then I'm gonna copy them from this side and then to the other side. Go to the 3D view, and this is how it looks. Now, you can save this as you go along. So this space is gonna be accommodating our roller shutters, and then this one is going to be our access doors. So the next thing is, obviously this is a structural model. I'm going to go to the base. So on our base, I'm going to go to insert. So the bases we're going to go with are going to be 2000 by 2000 by 100 pad footings, pad foundations. So I'm going to go to load family, metric library UK, and then we're gonna say structural foundations, and then we're gonna go with the pad foundation rectangular and say open. So it's gonna be 2000 by 2000 by 1. Go to structure, and then isolated foundation, and then I'm gonna go with add grid. So I'm gonna place it like that, this side, and okay, this side, finish, and then add grid again, and also this side, and say finish, and then I'm gonna place it right there as well. Go to the 3D view, and this is basically how it looks. So here we are. This is basically our structural plan, but obviously the one thing that's left, let's go to the surface bed. We're gonna have to place our surface bed. So for our surface bed, we're gonna go with under structure, actually under foundation, we're gonna go with the slab. Edit type, duplicate. So we're gonna use, let's go with 200, 200 millimeter thick surface bed, and say okay, edit type. So I'm gonna change it to 200 0.2, and then I'm gonna edit type. So obviously I'm gonna change the material to concrete cast in place, and say okay, and then okay, and then okay. I'm gonna add my rectangle, and then I'm gonna place it from this point, and then also I'm gonna place it like that. So if I measure from this distance to this distance is 3.5. So 3.5, so from this point, so half of 3.5 is going to be 3.5 divided by 2, which is 1.75. So here we are. So this is how our surface bed is going to be casted. So I'm going to break this down based on construction sequencing, so it makes it easier for the estimators to quantify everything. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to say finish edit mode, go to the 3D view, and this is how our surface bed looks. Now I'm gonna go to surface bed again and then select it, and then I'm just gonna say mirror, and then it's gonna be mirrored like this. Select the two of them, and then I'm just gonna say copy towards this point, and this one, and then this one. So uh, our last concrete cast for our surface bed is gonna be much smaller. It will have a smaller area, so I'm just gonna refine its size and then place it like that, and then I'm gonna mirror it towards the other side. Go to the 3D view, and this is how it looks. Perfect. So yeah, this is our basically our structural model for our warehouse distribution center. But the last thing, the two last things we have to do, obviously, actually the three last things we have to do is we're gonna have to apply classification towards our elements and also generate our schedule and then export this model to IFC. So for our classification, we're gonna go with let's just generate our schedule first. So go to schedule, right click and say new material takeoff, multi-category material takeoff and say okay. We're gonna start with our category, load it in, and then our type, and then we're gonna load that in, and then our family, we're gonna load that in, and then our levels. No, I don't think that's a need for levels. So let's go with area. So material area, and then our volume, material volume, and then we're gonna go with our count. So our count, yes. And then after that, we're gonna go to filter. So filter is fine. Sorting and grouping, we're gonna set it to category, then by type, then by family. And then we're gonna add blank lines, and then we're gonna add our footers. Make sure it's set to title count, and so we're gonna set it to title count and totals, grand totals, itemize every instances, and then to our formatting, we're gonna go to material area. We're gonna calculate the totals, volumes. We're gonna calculate the totals, and then for our appearance is fine. If I go back to my material area and then field format, we're gonna uncheck this use project settings. So I'm gonna set my unit symbol to none, and then my decimal places to 2 decimal places, and then I'm gonna do the same thing for our volume. Uncheck this 2 decimal places, and then I'm gonna set this to none and say okay, and then okay. Now our schedule is generated. So the only thing left for our schedule to include is our Uniclass classification system. Now I'm gonna go back to I'm gonna select my columns first and say shift, and then if I select one, everything is gonna be refined. So I selected my column, and then you're gonna have to install this plugin, this add-in or extension, which is the interoperability tools. This is where you can use as sets of data or classification system that you can assign towards your elements in order for your model to communicate with different parties from different countries or different organizations. So here we are, we have the shared parameters, the room and area sync, model checker, Kobe extension. Most of you are familiar with that, the Kobe extensions, the standardized data, the equipment data. So we're going to use this one standardized data, specifically the assigned classification. So we're going to select assigned classification, and then we're going to use the Uniclass 2015 database. And then we're just going to refresh that so that everything is loaded. So the basis of Uniclass, it involves sets of tables that you can use to classify your elements or your products. So um, it is basically broken down into three categories, which are the elements, the products, and the systems. So you can assign the elements, you can assign the products, and also the system towards your elements. So we're gonna start with our elements. So for our columns, we're gonna go with structural elements, and then the superstructure, and I think we can go with the framed structures and say assigned, and then we're gonna go with the products. So under our products, we're gonna have as the moment you select your elements, it's gonna automatically detect which type of element you have selected, and all you have to do is drop down until you find a specific set of classification that you can assign towards your element. So here we are, for instance, like the column, we selected the structural steel column. So for this one, we're gonna go with so we have the concrete columns, we have the composite steel on concrete columns, and there's the steel. Okay, stainless steel structural column. I'm gonna assign that, and then the last one is the systems. So yes, it's the system. So we're gonna go with structural system, and then we have the structural columns, and then I'm just gonna drop down, and then we can go with heavy steel column system and say assign, and then okay. Go back to your schedule, and then under fields, we're gonna load in your classification sets. So you're gonna select the first one, and then shift select the last one, and then you're gonna add in your Uniclass classification system uh, headings, and then you're gonna say okay. And as you scroll to the right, this is the classification of your structural steel columns. Everything is set. Now your model can communicate with other parties, be it from different countries. So the next one is our structural foundation. Go to interoperability tools, you're gonna assign it, and then we're gonna start with our elements. It is a substructure, it is a foundation, you're gonna assign it, and then your products, and then we're gonna go with our concrete base and foundation products. So we're gonna go with our concrete base and foundation products. So we're gonna go with the floating slab foundation. You can actually not go into too much detail in terms of the classification. You can just keep it as generic as possible. Like for instance, this heading, you can actually select it and use it as a concrete base and foundation product, and then assign it. And now the next one is gonna be our systems. So for our system, obviously we have structural systems, and we're gonna select the substructure system and then concrete foundation system. So I think we can go with the concrete foundation system and say assign. And now I'm gonna close it down. Um, Close it down. So as you can see, our structural foundation is very much classified. Now I'm gonna go, let's just select our structural foundation. So these are our pad footings assigned classification. Elements, so it's our foundation. Products, so for our products, we're gonna go with concrete foundation pads, assign. And then for our system, we're gonna go with the concrete foundation system, but this one we can um, specify it more. So it's gonna be reinforced concrete pad or strip foundation system. And then you're gonna say assign, close it down. And then I'm gonna scroll down structural framing, which is our beams. So I'm gonna say, actually for our beams, I'm just gonna go to the 3D view. I think it might be easier that way. So I'm gonna select one of each type, and then I'm gonna go to interoperability tools, assign, go to the elements first, frame structure, assign it, products, so beams and joists. Okay, we can actually see, I'm just gonna name it beams and joists, and then I'm gonna say assign. And then for our systems, we're going to use the structural systems. And then we're not going to use the substructure. We're going to use the structural frame system. So I'm going to say structural framing systems and say assign and then okay. Go to our schedules. Let's see what we have. Now, every BIM we have incorporated into our model is very much classified. Now, your model can communicate with different sets of stakeholders, whether it's local or international. Perfect. Now, this is the basis of a BIM model, guys. Information plus 3D, graphical data plus non-graphical data. So we are basically done with our structural model. Obviously, we're going to have to generate an architectural model and then link it towards this one. So the last thing we can do is you're going to go to File and then say Export. And then you're going to drop down, go to IFC, Industry Foundation Class, which is a perfect way in order to share your model with different sets of stakeholders and open the model even if it's not in its native environment. So that's how versatile IFC is. So you're going to go to modify setup. And as you can see, we can use this basic IFC. Uh, uh, um, we can use this version 2.3. For roads and earthworks and infrastructure, I think IFC4 is more efficient, but in terms of the buildings, I think we can go with 2 by 3. And then we're going to go to additional content. So I'm just going to say export only elements visible in view. And then make sure you don't select split walls, columns, stats by levels. And you're gonna go to property set. You're gonna check this, export Revit property sets, export base quantities, export schedules as property sets, and then level of detail. I think it's fine at low. Advanced, you're gonna, let's just go with export parts as building elements. Use formula and type name for reference. Include IFC elevation in the site local placement or region. Store IFC guiding element parameter after export. Use the type name only for IFC tag, and then also the last one. So geographic reference, I think everything is fine. It's as shared coordinates and project site, I think it's fine. So you're gonna say okay. And obviously I'm gonna save it under my file and say export. Now, after it is exported, you can take it to other softwares, coordination softwares such as Revit, such as Solibri, such as Navisworks, and then you can use it for whatever BIM case you have on your site. So, thank you guys for watching this tutorial, and I'll catch you on the one where we will generate an architectural model, and then after that, we're gonna apply the same logic we did here, schedules, classification, export, IE, IFC, and then we're going to link the architectural model. Actually, we're going to link this structural model towards the architectural model to use it as a reference in order for us to place brickwork, doors, roller shutters, windows, louvers, and so on, and stairs and plumbing features and so on and so forth. So yeah, see you guys and I hope you enjoyed this one. Peace.